So now I'll be getting to some of the high level strategies for problem solving. So these will not be specific how to solve this particular math formula, but they are well trodden, previously, like really well used problem solving ideas that a lot of really smart people have used for a wide variety of problems. So the first one that I want to talk about is engaging in successful flailing. This is a problem solving strategy that I think students sometimes tend to avoid, but it's very useful for the AMC. So engaging in successful flailing basically means um, it's basically it means what it sounds like, right? Attempting to put down everything you know about a particular problem and hammering that problem with your totality of your knowledge about that particular subject until something begins to crack, right? So for example, if a problem is about similar triangles, uh, you just throw everything that you know about similar triangles at that particular problem until something starts to click, right? Sometimes what students try and do when they see an AMC question, and really when they face a complex problem in general, is they try and skip immediately to the final step. And if they can't figure out how to get there, then they will either give up on the problem or just sit there trying to, in their own head, just navigate to that final solution as quickly as possible. Instead, some of the time, an AMC problem is like walking through a maze, and you will have to hit a few dead ends before you can eventually get to the finish line. And sometimes the fastest way to do that is to run as quickly through the maze as possible, hitting as many dead ends as possible um, until you get to the end, right? Um, so that's just one idea for you to kind of employ when you're hit with a complex problem that you're not totally sure how to deal with. Another thing is to engage in wishful thinking. This is a really useful strategy for the AMC in particular because they often design their questions to make you wish that it looked slightly different, right? That the numbers were slightly different, that the problem asked you for something slightly different, because in that slightly different way, you know exactly what to do. But because they've tweaked it a bit, because they've given you something slightly more complex or different from what you're used to seeing within the context of that problem, you don't know how to solve it, right? So a lot of times in those kind of problems, what the AMC wants you to do is push that kind of more difficult formulation of the problem into a more clear formulation of that problem, which will allow you to immediately solve it, right? So that's when engaging in wishful thinking can come in handy. And that's basically a strategy wherein you convert that complex problem into one that you can solve and that you do know how to solve, that's of a slightly different form. And then you deal with the consequences, right? How can you alter that question in a meaningful way to get it to a state where you know how to solve it? That's so a lot of the strategies you'll find will revolve around the idea of facing a problem that you don't know how to solve initially and working it until it's in a state in which you do know how to solve it. And oftentimes that those steps will take a a a lot of various attempts. But one crucial theme that I hope you find in these strategies are facing a problem that you don't know how to solve and working at it until it's in a state that you do know how to solve it. This might seem counterproductive, this particular strategy, avoiding hard work, but I find that it's a useful one to remind students is an option. Um, and in fact is always the recommended option inside of the AMC exam. Obviously, outside of the AMC, you want to be working as hard as possible, studying, practicing. But once you sit down and the timer has started, that's the time to avoid as much hard work as possible. So whenever you can simplify a question, whenever you can eliminate some of the potential answers and quickly arrive at only one or two, Whenever you can turn a question that is, asking for, um, that is giving you extremely large numbers, and you know that there's a brute force way of just attacking it, but it takes a lot of time, always know that there is an easier way to get to the solution, and always try and find that way, because you'll find that time will be one of your most limiting resources in the AMC. Another problem solving strategy is to go to extremes. There is a very common theme amongst AMC problems, which they will often give you a question that involves in some way uh, a problem that looks very complicated from the outset, but when you apply some kind of variable to it that pushes it to an extreme, it starts to unravel and solve itself very quickly. So, for example, there might be a problem that involves some kind of variable inside of a word problem, right? And they ask you to depending on what this variable is, what will be its effect on, say, uh, some other quality, right? Some other number. And so, a lot of the times with these common theme of questions, what the AMC really wants you to do is to see what happens when you push that variable to either its absolutely, like, push it very to a very, very, very large number, or pull it to a very, very small number, right? And just play around with it and see its effects on the question. You'll often learn a lot about a problem when you push what it's asking you for and you apply it in extreme scenarios, just to have a feel for its breaking points. And the last thing that I want to tell you guys is that, and this might not seem like a problem solving strategy, but it is without a doubt the most helpful and important strategy that I feel that I can give you, is to never give up while you're in the AMC exam. And really, this applies for problem solving in general, right? Um, I feel that a lot of students who walk into the AMC exam expect it to feel like just a regular math exam, right? And if they've studied hard and they know their math knowledge, eh, students who walk into a typical math exam should be able to know immediately upon looking at a given question how to solve it. But that's not the case for the AMC. The AMC expects even students who have studied hard, practiced, done all their homework, and really done a good job of preparing, they still expect even those students to glance at, say, a difficult question on the exam and initially have no idea how to solve it. In fact, what the AMC really wants is for a student to sit down, initially look at a question, have no idea what to do, and then by working through it and putting in the time and applying some of these strategies that we've talked about, they eventually get to the solution. That is kind of an ideal AMC question. Um, and of course, I'm not saying every question will be like that, but a lot of the more difficult ones and the ones that will make you stand out from amongst your peers will be like that. So, a strategy of understanding that the AMC wants you to feel that sense of not knowing how to solve, and kind of accepting that and working through it, will really pay a lot of dividends when it comes time to actually write the AMC. Okay, guys, that's all the time that I have for now. I hope you learned a little bit about what the AMC is, what MAA is, and some strategies for problem solving that hopefully you can apply not only to the AMC exam, but also to problems in general.